What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. This is episode 19, so we are clipping right along here and approaching the big number 20. So on this episode, I'm pretty excited to bring this one to everybody. This is a little bit different of a podcast for us, not so much about what we're up to, but bringing on a guest to share what they're up to with their new business that they're starting. So on this episode, you're going to hear Jay and Bob from Big Sky Rentals, and this is a company that these two are starting up, and I think what they're doing is a great service to the outdoor industry, and it's very forward thinking and kind of outside the box. So when I heard about it, I had to talk to them, had to learn about why are they starting this business, and just let them explain what they're up to. So I will let them do that. I won't get too far into it, but I think everybody that is listening to this will really get excited about what these guys are doing, and I hope you check them out and give them a try on your next big adventure. So I will leave that there. Jimmy, Danny, and I are working on putting together some different podcast guests here for the off season, and without anything to chase around, we're looking for doing a little bit of interactive stuff with some of our listeners. So we will be posting some stuff on social media. Looking for some Q&A ideas or questions that anyone might have for us, as we would like to. We're going to be putting together a podcast. Probably the next one will be just kind of a reset for the three of us to get together and kind of catch up a little bit from the season, and also kind of a reset and focus on what we're up to here at Pert Near Outdoors and kind of what the off season looks like for us. So I'm really looking forward to that episode. Take a look at our social media pages. Over the next couple of days, we will be posting up a kind of a question and answer little thing on Instagram. I've seen people do that before, so I'm going to post that up. And if you have any questions for us, please fire away. Any questions, don't care what they are, we will entertain them. So I hope for some entertaining ones there. One of the other things that this time of year brings is a lot of opportunities to get out and interact with your fellow outdoorsmen. So one thing I want to kind of get into routine of doing here each week on the podcast is highlight what's coming up around the New York area as far as events for you to be aware of. So as many of you know, we are here at Pert Near Outdoors are pretty involved in backcountry hunters and anglers. We really align well with what that group is all about, and so they've got a lot of activities that are going to be happening all across the state, really all year round. But January 1 really was the kickoff for a lot of the new initiatives that we have here as a group in New York, trying to have a lot of social events, whether it be pint nights or cleanups, different trailheads or streams or things of that nature. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Probably the best method to keep track of what Backcountry Hunters and Anglers New York branch is up to is to join that group on Facebook. It's probably the most active place for all the information there. But on Instagram, they have a page as well, which is New York BHA. Great group of people to follow along with. If you're into the outdoors, you don't have to hunt or fish. If you like to hike and just like to get outside and enjoy it, I think this is the right group for you, and I strongly encourage you to check them out. And if you're at any of the outdoor shows across New York State, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers will have a booth there. So keep your eyes peeled for them, and stop by and meet the folks that are manning the booth, and maybe you'll even meet one of us hanging out there, as we will be helping out at a few of the shows. So with that, towards the end of January, keep your eyes peeled for the New York Sportsman's Expo, which is actually held each year in Syracuse. So that's going to be the 24th, 25th, and 26th. It might start on the 23rd, but according to my calendar that my dad purchased me. So these calendars are slick, and if you are a New York sportsman, I strongly encourage you to check out the Outdoor News. They put out a calendar each year that just your regular, refrigerator calendar, but it's got all of the important dates for the New York State sportsman. So sweet info on here. So according to this, it starts Friday. So the New York State Sportsman's Expo starts Friday the 24th, 25th, 26th. So a couple of us might be up there to check that out for sure. I've never been, but I'd like to. And the following week, the first week of February, you will see a bunch of the social media channels are posting about a BHA movie event that they're hosting in Syracuse. and that's a project that they've been doing, a video project on public land grouse. So that's something that I'm not totally engaged with or informed about, but it looks pretty cool, and maybe we'll swing out there to check that out as well. So definitely encourage everybody in this off season to get engaged and go to some of these events, whether it be the outdoor shows or any of these events for backcountry hunters and anglers, or NWTF, the QDMA. I know they do a bunch of stuff, but definitely a great time of year. So look forward to engaging with everybody in that, and trying to bring a lot of that info to everyone, so you know what's going on and where to be, so you can partake in all the fun out there during the off season. So with that, I think that's all I've got intro in this episode. So enjoy this. I think you'll have a good time with what's going on with Jay and Bob, and make sure to check them out. So thanks again for listening, and have a good week. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Log Talk podcast, brought to you by Pertinier Outdoors. And excited this week, as this is a little bit different of an episode for us, where we're actually we're bringing a guest on. So this week we have two guests with us. Actually, we have Jay Benjamin and Bob Dudzinski. Did I nail it, Bob? I was nervous about the name.
Crushed. Yeah.
All right, so I got Jay and Bob with me, and I heard about Jay and Bob on another podcast, on the Hunting Gear podcast. That is something that Dan Johnson, from a lot of people know him from the Wired to Hunt podcast, put together. And I was listening a couple weeks ago and heard Jay on there talking about the business that he and Bob were starting. And as I listened to the discussion, I was like, this is something that I really want to reach out to these guys, and I want to learn more about what they're doing, and I want them to share their message with our listeners here at Pertinier Outdoors. So I guess with that kind of brief introduction, I'll turn it over to you two. And first thing, just kind of introduce yourselves and give a description of what your business is that you guys are starting up as we speak.
Yeah, Billy, this is Jay here. I guess just to start, first and foremost, when we got your message asking to be on the podcast, we were more than thrilled, and
honor.
Yeah, just excited to be here today. To give you a little bit of background on Big Sky, we're new to the game, and our goal, or what we do, is we provide hunting, fishing, and camping gear on a rental basis at a fraction of the retail price. Our goal is to alleviate really any and all hassle associated with going on a hunt, or going on a camping trip, or going on a fly fishing excursion. We think that we plan to drop ship gear to wherever the customer needs it. As long as there's a physical address, we can ship it there, and they pick out what they want online, and they receive it wherever they want it. And once they're done using it, they just throw it back in the box, put a return label on it, and they don't have to worry about it again.
Yeah. So Billy, we think about your clientele and the guys that you listen to your podcast, and maybe they're really big into pheasant or quail or turkey hunting, and maybe they get an invite from somebody who wants to take them duck hunting. Well, not all that stuff is transferable. So we believe that we can provide somebody the opportunity without having to break the bank to go take that invite duck hunting, and instead of dropping $1,000 on Sitka waders, you're dropping a fraction of that with us, and feeling good about taking them a couple of days before the trip, either at your lodge or at your place of residence, and then sending them back to us. And we fix them, we clean them, and we wait for the next person to give us a shot.
And we're using premium brands, Billy. So when you or your cohorts go out there, whether you're an experienced or avid outdoorsman or a newbie, when you're out in the field or in a blind, you feel like a boss, doing whatever it is you're doing that day. So
yeah, so and I guess
we're excited.
So sorry to cut you off. So when I was given that intro, so the name of your guys' company is Big Sky Rentals, and you guys are literally just launched. So for you guys, I guess what I want to kind of learn about both of you is, first off, who are Jay and Bob, and how did this idea for this company come about?
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and start, Jay, here. I am not an avid outdoorsman, or have not in the past. And I work at a trucking company, and my boss, along with a couple fellow other executives, invited Bob and I here, who is a more avid outdoorsman than myself, on a pretty deluxe fly fishing trip going out to Wyoming and, kind of wading along the Snake River and going up to Idaho to the Henry's Fork, which for those of you on the call that are big fly fishermen, these are locations that you'll know well. But not being an avid fly fisherman myself, and actually coming from a background of managing a truck rental business, I started looking at, the cost to fly out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and convince my wife to spend a week out with, 4 guys in Wyoming. And then, once I was able to stomach all of that, I got to looking at the price of, buying really good gear for the type of fishing we were doing. And, when I had the sticker shock, unfortunately had to turn down the opportunity, and regretfully did. But, as I missed that opportunity, I ended up, Bob and I started talking, and we thought, there's no need to miss things like this. There's an opportunity to provide some financial flexibility here, and alleviate the worry of what does Jay Benjamin's, newbie to fly fishing need when he goes on a trip, or how can we help that person or somebody who is an avid outdoorsman and wants to try out, high quality gear that they're thinking about changing. How do we make that more accessible to them, both financially and, without hassle? And so I'll turn it over to Bob here to introduce himself, but that's really where, phase one, the idea began.
Yeah. And this is Bob here, co-founder, Robin to Batman, over here with Jay.
Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, exactly. I try to stay away from that reference.
Sorry.
All right. I'm a little bit more avid of an outdoorsman. Have done plenty of fishing trips and hunting trips with my family, being from Nebraska and having hunting property. But even for myself, getting up-to-date premium gear is expensive. And, when you want to do a different hunt than what you're normally outfitted for, switching over, that example I gave earlier, switching over to doing duck hunting is not exactly, you can't just go throw on your pheasant chaps and, walk into a duck blind. It requires an entirely different set of equipment. And as much as I'd love to own all of it, I also know that I'm going to only duck hunt maybe twice a year. And, for me, it started to make sense. Why would I buy this stuff and have it sit in my basement for however long, listening to my wife give me grief over it, when I could rent it and send it back. So I think, Jay kind of pitched the fishing side of the equation, and I quickly was like, hey, listen, we got, big market on the hunting side too. And so that's kind of how it's all evolved. And, Jay mentions that we're a part of this business that, we currently work at, and quite honestly, they do rentals better than most anybody in the industry. So we've just basically taken a model that we're both very familiar with and tried to apply it to hunting, fishing, and camping gear.
Yeah, and I think just to expand a little bit more upon that, Billy, I think in the grand scheme of things, we're fairly, neophytes to the hunting, fly fishing, and camping community. And that kind of brought this to us in a different lens than perhaps the avid outdoorsman, because, we quickly, realizing, hey, if we only do this 1 week a year and wanting to do more of it and be part of that community that exists, kind of the fraternity and sorority of hunters and anglers, thought, hey, if we want to do this, if we want to become hunters or anglers, it's not cheap to, to go out there and do it.
No.
So, we can't be the only ones thinking it,
No, and it's by far, I mean, you guys 100%, you built a business on it. It's one of, if not the biggest barrier to entry to any hobby, let alone, speaking directly to the outdoors. It's incredible. And if I don't even want to know how much money I've spent in my life purchasing hunting gear, I know of late in the last few years, I've gone primarily to Sitka gear, and I hunt for bargains. I look for deals, and I'm always doing that. But it's amazing how much money you can spend on this stuff. But what you guys are doing, I think, is opening up an opportunity for that new hunter, that new fisherman, or that person that wants to go on their first backpacking trip. And instead of them going and buying, we've all done it, I'm sure you have, where you spend less money on something because that's all you can afford right now. And you end up buying 2 or 3 more of those, or you end up buying another of the higher quality product because now then you realize that you like it. So with what you guys are doing, you can test out, you can go experience that experience with high quality gear, but then not commit yourself until you know that fit you well, or that you could see well through it, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. That's our goal, is, to further assist those that are already doing this frequently and inspire those that are not doing it, to partake, where, concern might be for what gear do I need, or can I really spend that much money to do this, or really to take any of those, questions out of the equation and make it as easy as possible for someone to go on a hunt.
Yep. So let's dive into kind of product and what you guys will be carrying. So I guess kind of run through what the primary method of business, which is going to be online with you guys, and then kind of what you guys are going to be carrying. Are you going to have men's, women's, children? What's your market look like you're going to have product for?
Yeah, so we're kind of in development phase when you think about our target market. But out of the chute, we're definitely going to be, open to carrying men's, women's, and children's, all across the spectrum. I think when you think about our products, we're not going to go cheap on anything. I mean, really, part of the model and the reason why, we exist is we want to provide that premium equipment. So when you think about your top of the line in any of our product categories, you should expect it to be, the most expensive brand, because we want to give you access to that at a fraction of the price. So when you think about hunting, it's going to be, predominantly Sitka. When you think about, camping, you've got the North Face, among others. And when you think about fishing, you've got your Hatch and your G Loomis. And, it goes deeper and deeper. But the priority here is, for all walks of life, we want to provide that premium product.
And, to go into it a little bit more, we're wanting to provide, or we are providing, really what we think of as soup to nuts, what you need for a hunt. So if we just stick with hunting for a second, it's camos, it's waders, it's optics if you need it. If you're going on an upland hunt and, looking for pheasant, it's chaps, it's, it's vests, blaze orange vests, it's, and everything in between. We think there are items that are certainly rentable. We think waders, you can get reuse out of them, but we're not going to rent, socks and long johns, and that just came from the two of us thinking, hey, if we were going to rent one of these things, just like if you're going to rent a tuxedo, yeah, you get the suit, right? And you get the bow tie, but they're not renting you the socks and underwear. Like, you can buy black socks and you can buy your Hanes underwear from Target if you want, but we're not going to reuse that for somebody else. So we're planning to sell those, kind of wearable items like that. But the mainstays, spotting scopes, things of that nature, camo, etc., we're planning to rent, and those that's a truism for camping, for hunting, and for fishing.
Yeah, and I think, along those lines, by way of, if you're a man, or woman getting on our website, we're going to want to provide you that full package that you can use, from a premium perspective, so that you're taking away the guesswork associated with a hunt. We've done the research. We've both used our own experience and talked to, folks in a lot of different sub-regions of the country, talk about what works well, in those regions. And that's the type of package that we want to provide to somebody in a regional hunt.
Like, Billy, you might need a timber camo versus a marsh camo, and understanding the fact that Billy Harvey in upstate New York is a size large, and he's going to need, this specific camo style, and, so on and so forth, such that we take care of our customers as best as possible to make sure they have everything they need for the day they go out on that hunt.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And we've been over the last few episodes of our podcast, we've been recapping our hunt to Pennsylvania as a group. We go down each year for 3 days in rifle season. And, as I was preparing for this conversation with you guys, I was thinking about a couple of the guys that went with us this year for their first time. And these are guys that have never hunted this style of hunting, where we're on foot in the hills all day we're doing big style deer drives, but we're moving nonstop. But then when you stop, you need to be able to layer up and get warm. And, that's a bunch of us that have been doing this year after year and even have gone on Western hunts. We have gear that works in that environment, but they didn't. They've got the big bulky bibs and the heavy insulated jackets and rubber boots. So they don't have a gear setup for this. So if they want to go on this 3-day hunt once a year, they're like, oh my God, if I really want to be comfortable like the rest of these guys, I need to upfit my entire equipment loadout. Whereas with a program like you guys,
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, like, with a program like you guys, you could get yourself a package for that week that you could use and be extremely comfortable, very versatile, have everything you need, and not have to invest that large amount of money, which could be $2,000+ really, if you wanted to have every single piece you wanted to have, including optics. You're looking in that price range without a doubt.
Yeah, and we all know, how rough it can be going out, on an excursion like this with the wrong gear, right? Even just as, simple as walking out on the street on a day you think it's going to be 50 degrees and it ends up being 20 degrees and you're not prepared for it. It's only further exaggerated when you're on a 3-day hunt in Pennsylvania and, your rubber boots, you've got 6 blisters on your feet and, you've got 2 more days worth of exploration. And so, that's our goal, is to make it that our customers feel good in our gear, and also that it is the right gear for what they're doing.
Absolutely. So I guess the next point I wanted to hit on here was, kind of why, I guess when we've kind of been talking a little bit about this, but like, why renting instead of purchasing hunting gear? What is the benefit that you guys see, even if you are somebody that's doing this stuff year after year, using a program like yours instead of investing in some of that gear, what do you see is the benefit of renting your gear for a hunt rather than purchasing it outright?
Yeah, so we think about it in a couple of ways. We think about, the ability to, have access to premium equipment, at a fraction of the cost. We think about, the convenience associated with not having to schlep that gear to and from your hunt, as well as not having to store it. And we also think about, quite honestly, if you do end up getting to the point where, all right, now some of the guys that you've invited to your hunting trip have done it, 3 or 4 or 5 times, and they're saying to themselves, hey, instead of renting this, maybe it does make sense to pull the trigger. We're developing, and one little tip or trick that we have from our current, profession is this rental purchase option. So a guy says, hey, I'm going to rent it the first 3 times because I'm not really 100% sure that this is exactly what I need for this unique style hunt that I'm doing up in Pennsylvania. But maybe after the 3rd hunt, he says, yeah, this is exactly the stuff that I want. I'm going to be doing this with these guys for the next 10 years. I may as well pull the trigger. We want to be able to give that guy flexibility to use a portion of his rent that he's paid towards us, towards the purchase of either the equipment that he's already been using or, equipment that we have currently on the shelf that's either lightly been used or even brand new.
I think that's a great option to have as somebody who is going to be getting into this and somebody that just is out and about being active. I think it's a great way to figure out what you want, because there's nothing worse than spending that money and you can't get it back. And in a lot of situations, it's, especially if you're buying stuff on clearance or something along those lines, or you buy it on eBay from somebody, you're kind of taking a leap of faith that you're going to like this, and the money's spent and you can't send it back. So then, to your point, you're trying to schlep it off, you're trying to sell it, you're trying to find a way out of it. We're going through a program like this with you guys. You can test it out and you can rent to own. And it's something that I think our generation, the younger generation, we're very comfortable with that idea. And that was something I was going to kind of talk about with this, why renting. And I can speak personally to I've traveled out to Colorado quite a bit in the last 6-8 years with my brother-in-law living out there. And the first time we went, it was for a skiing trip. And I grew up skiing in the East. I'm a big skier. I have all the gear. I'm like, well, I got this all figured out. I'll ship all my gear there and it'll get there and I'll use it and everything will be great. I won't have to spend any money. Problem solved. Well, what happens is my stuff never showed up by the time we've skied. So I ended up having to rent anyway. But after that, every trip after that, I rented skis. And I brought my boots, I rented skis. And the beauty there, and why I think a program like yours is so true, is that I got into this routine of I was using the right equipment for that trip. I wasn't using skinny skis that you use in the East to ski on ice. I was using powder skis that are built for whatever the conditions were that day out there. And you're using the top of the line product at a very, very, fraction of the cost, obviously. And you're getting that high level experience that instead of struggling and using equipment that's not meant for those conditions, you're using and enjoying that experience out there. And I've done the same thing each time we've gone back fly fishing. You go to that outfitter down in town, you rent the gear from him. He tells you what the fish are biting on, and what the hell you can do? You come from the East with a fly rod and you go out to Colorado and you step in a stream. You don't have a damn clue what's going on out there. So like I see what you guys are doing is aligning with that beautifully. And you guys think, let's use fly fishing for an example. You rent a package. Do you foresee outfitters being open to having you guys have those packages shipped to the outfitter and you pick them up there so you can still have some of that kind of local dynamic relationship that you get from one of those outfitters that are right there where you're going?
Yeah, we think, first of all, the outfitters are a critical piece of that industry, right? They've been the gateway to the waters for generations. So we want to partner with the outfitters, and actually have developed a partnership program such that every time they recommend someone to rent our gear, such that the outfitter doesn't have to carry the inventory, so it's actually helpful for them. But also, every time they recommend a rental and complete a rental of some of our gear to one of their customers or somebody that walks in, they'll receive a kickback or a commission. So, we want to incorporate them in the lodges and, really get everybody on board as to, hey, let's make this easier and better, and have the biggest worry for Billy Harvey be, hey, how many fish am I going to catch today, as opposed to, do I have the right stuff to even catch one?
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah. I think you're right on, and what you're planning on doing there with outfitters is important. And, and you guys probably can speak from it too, because it sounds like you've been out there on some of these trips. The outfitters, I think that's not a core part of their business. So, you guys are in business, you're businessmen. You want to do what your specialty is. And if it's not what you do, don't half-ass it, which that's what a lot of, I have rented gear. It's good. I've had a good experience, but waders are ripped, boots don't have, the laces are crap, stuff like that. That's not what they do. They're outfitters. They're not rental companies. Right. So that's, you guys have a perfect niche there to do that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest piece of the puzzle there for us is proving to guides, outfitters, lodges, the quality of product that we're ready to provide, knowing that, hey, we're not just shipping them something we're pulling off the rack from the dollar store. Your customers are going to feel like it's Christmas morning getting a Guide G3 Sims wader, or a Hatch reel that retail is $650. You're getting to use what the biggest, baddest out there use, and as a result, all you guys have to worry about is making sure those customers catch fish.
That's awesome.
And we think that enhances their customer experience as well, and will make for, a nice partnership down the line, and have engaged some outfitters and lodges already, and are gaining some steam there.
Awesome. So how does your program work as far as the renting cycle? So what I mean by that are we looking at, daily rentals? Are we looking at weekly rentals? Can you rent for an entire season? What are you guys looking at for that? And what are some of the price ranges to go along with, obviously you can't speak to the exact price ranges because every product is a little bit different, but what are you kind of looking at there?
Yeah, the way we've priced it today is, I would say, not as sophisticated as what we'd like, or really as to what you're talking about on the phone. So what we've done is, on our site, we provide a daily rate and require a minimum of a week to rent. So we think that gives a customer enough time to enjoy the equipment, as well as receive it, put it back in the box, ship it back, etc. And you're welcome to rent for additional days on top of that week, just at the additional daily rate charge, and are certainly open to renting for seasons, or getting a little more sophisticated in that, hey, there's a downtime for duck hunting. So if somebody's going to go on that, having discounted rates, or, if it's the first day of whitetail season, that there's possibly a price surge, not too different than Uber does. But right now it's just a flat, basically weekly rate with a daily rate to add on to it if you were to extend that trip. But if for folks on the phone who are interested in renting for seasons, please reach out to us on our contact page on our site at bigskyrent.com, and we will certainly work to accommodate that.
So I know on the podcast I listened to with you and Dan, you were very heavy on, your core focus as a business is customer service. You really want to deliver. That's what you're built on, is customer service. So explain kind of how you guys are going to, how you're going to support that. Your primary motive. You just mentioned that on your website, BigSkyRent.com, you have a contact tab up on the very top right-hand corner, and that's where folks can reach out to you. But I guess just speak to that your importance and how you want to build this whole thing on customer service.
Yeah. So we think about, renting anything for that matter as predominantly just that, customer service. You need your gear to be on time, where it needs to be. You talk about your experience shipping your snow gear across the country, and it was late. That was probably not a great experience for you, probably a little bit stressful. For us, we completely understand that scenario. We live it every day. And, that's the type of, thing we're going to try to eliminate as much as possible here at Big Sky. I mean, obviously, Jay and I take a ton of pride in, providing this customer service, but we're also going to, bring on specialists to make sure that if you are going in that, that niche hunt, down in, the Nashville area or what have you, that we've got somebody that can weigh in and can help, build a package that's truly specific for those needs.
You just dovetailed perfectly into my next question, which was, if you're somebody that's new getting into doing one of these activities, that's what your plan is that you want to build a network of folks in each of these areas doing different things to give people guidance. Because if you're new getting into this, you can go to your website, but you don't really know where what do I really need to get started here? What do I need for this particular adventure? So that's your game plan on how you're going to support that then?
Yeah, I mean, and that comes from my experience that, in being invited on this fly fishing trip out to Wyoming. Before I even got to looking at what the prices were of anything, had someone tell me, hey, you need to go to these 5 different manufacturers and figure out your size. And, they may have availability. If they don't, here's your backup plan. And it was all of a sudden fairly cumbersome to figure out and complicated to figure out how to make this all work. So, even in just starting this process, our step 1 was to engage specialists to say, hey, what's core to what we really need if, Billy Harvey's going on a hunt in, Western Pennsylvania, what does that look like? And, phase 2 for us is to build out, now that we're live on our website, phase 2 is to build out, I guess a call center is maybe the word, the word that comes to mind, but a team of specialists on call really is how I'm thinking of it. Just like doctors on call, to say, hey, this is what you need head to toe to go on this trip. And, that way when you get out there, you're going in the middle of spring, you don't end up with deep winter apparel. It's, it's set for whatever the, activity is.
Yeah. And I think some of your, that you were talking about the connections with the outfitters are a huge asset to that. If you got somebody who's planning a trip, you can connect them very easily with an outfitter that can give them guidance as to what they need and how they should be prepared.
Yeah, we readily recognize that we are novices to the world, the culture of the intricacies of the gear that's needed for each type of these activities. And, we don't want to, have any facade as to the fact that we are more than willing in doing this to bring on specialists that can say, this is what you need, and not, this is what this guy who does this once every 3 years thinks you need. This is the guy that does it week in and week out. This is what he says or she says you need.
Yeah, it's very cool. That's awesome of you guys to be. I mean, first off, I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing without having all that experience, because you're going to be so much more open to learning about products and how things work. And whereas I know that we're men, we get it. We get a little bit of testosterone and ego, and it's like, well, no, this is the best scope out there or whatever. So yeah, you guys are going to do great with, with kind of being open and looking to learn every day with that stuff.
Yeah, we've been put in our place by our wives enough times to know, hey, we know much less than we know less than Garmin knows on the GPS, right? So when it comes to hunting and fishing, let's do the same thing.
Let's walk through. So let's say Billy rents a set of Sitka gear for a hunt I'm going on. So I go through the whole hunt. I use the gear. I'm out in the field. I'm done with the hunt. So what does that look like? I could see that being a concern of some people, is like, how do I handle this? I rented all this gear. I got it on time. I really enjoyed it. Now I'm done with it. Now what's next? Do they have to clean it? Do they have to, if there's a failure, how do they, if they're nervous about how to handle that, what does that look like to you guys? How does that whole transaction work through?
Yeah, I think really for us, it's as simple as making sure it's moderately dry and throwing it back into the box. One thing that we've learned just in our experience managing a truck rental business is that if you provide premium quality equipment, people tend to take better care of premium quality equipment. Just like if you're going to rent, a Mercedes on your weekend getaway as opposed to, a 1992 Ford Fiesta, chances are, you're going to feel better about doing it, but you might press the throttle a few times, but in general, you're like, well, I got to make sure I take care of this. This is an expensive piece of equipment here. So, we want it to be as seamless as possible. And I think making sure that it's dry such that when it goes back to FedEx, it's not, a soupy box, and we take care of it from there. But, there's really not much to it. If there's damage or something like that, we'll take a look at it from there. But we think it's pretty easy, just to rent, receive it, and return it.
Mm-hmm. And we understand that, we're not going out and walking in our backyards. This is going hunting. So. And going on a duck hunt, you are going to catch a snag, or you're going to tear a wader at some point in time, and we understand that those problems do happen. What we're gonna expect is that you'll send it back. We'll make it right, and at some point there might be a conversation, but at the end of the day, we have our customer satisfaction most in mind.
Yeah, it's a whole lot more valuable for Billy in this scenario to go home and tell his 10 friends how great it was to rent and return it. And even though there was a snag, it didn't get bent over the barrel, for the cost of a new wader. That's a whole lot more beneficial to us than hitting you with some extreme, expense to repair that wader.
Yeah, absolutely. Built on customer service, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
All right. So selling of used gear. So do you foresee, once you get a year or two into this, that, or even right throughout the process, that you guys will have opportunities for folks to, purchase, whether it be, used clothing or, used equipment like fly rods or binoculars, spotting scopes, things like that? Do you foresee that being a part of your business as you move forward?
Yeah, I think we're just as excited about that as we are, the rental side of the equation. I think that, having access to buying the gear at a used price, knowing that it's still high end quality equipment, I think is really exciting. We want those same customers that were renting from us to come back and say, "Hey, I had a great experience. I want to purchase that piece of equipment now." We certainly want that to happen, and we also want others that may not be able to afford new equipment to come shop our site and see our used equipment. We expect it to look a little bit like the REI garage sale, but with I guess a wider variety of products.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's something I get excited about because a lot of this stuff, the durability and the quality of it. I certainly have found that with buying some of this more, high quality stuff. And I'll keep going back to Sitka. I mean, I've worn some of this stuff for 2-3 seasons and feel like I've beat it up pretty good, but it is in good quality. So if I'm a person who's getting into this and I want to save a little money, it's a great avenue to have to find something like this at a used price. So very cool that you guys are going to do that as well. All right. So
yeah, we're excited about it. We think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. So those are my list of questions I had for you guys. Do you have any questions you have for me? Throw that one at you. I bet you weren't prepared for that.
I have two questions. Two questions for you, Billy. First of all, how'd you come up with the name Pert Near Outdoors?
Oh, yeah, good question. Well, I wish it was some great, wonderful story, but it's not. My buddies and I, we all like saying Pert Near and about every other. And if you're not familiar with what Pert Near means, it's kind of like you pretty much or pretty close or we almost had it. So we always joke around. It's been something in our dialect for quite a while. And we always got a big kick out of, all these guys that are like, they got to be pro staff and who they're sponsored by. So, Pert Near we thought was pretty funny. Like we're Pert Near pro staff. And so my buddy Danny and I, we came up with the name. And actually before the 2018 hunting season, we wanted to create a social media page for our friends to follow, but to see if we could just kind of grow awareness of what we're up to and not just flood our own personal pages with it, because not everybody that's friends with us on our personal level is interested in what we're doing in the outdoors. So I was driving on the road and Danny's like, well, what do you think we should call it? And it just came to me like Pert Near Outdoors. And it just stuck, and we've had fun with it. And we've been asked that question a million times, and I still don't think my answer is really a good one. But it's, I think what I just come back to is that the whole Pert Near pro staff thing, people get all tied up into this pro staff, and it's great. Like if you can work with companies and help support them and they support you, that's awesome. But, in a way, the hunting world has become so obsessed with, who are you sponsored by and, all that stuff that we kind of just make light of it. Like we're Pert Near pro staff. If you go out and you go fishing twice a year and you want to be Pert Near pro staff, freaking have at it. We'll send you some stickers and a couple koozies and you can go out and live it up. So, that's the answer there is that's how we came up with it. And that's kind of our mission that we have here. So.
Really, that's a great story.
Yeah, I love
it. Weak. That's awesome.
Thanks. So that was one. What's number two?
I got one other. Yeah, I got one other, and this is a really important question, Billy, for you and all the followers in the upstate New York area. Who you got this weekend? Deshaun Watson and the Texans, or you going Bills Mafia all the way?
Bills Mafia. We're smashing tables 9 a.m. on Saturday. We're going to get after it.
Yeah.
No, we're pretty fired up.
Score prediction?
Well,
as you should be. I like Josh Allen. You guys got a great team.
We do. We're excited and excitedly, cautiously optimistic. And we've, this has been a big year for our Buffalo Bills, and they've had a couple big, games in the spotlight. And in past years, it was like, oh my God, we have a primetime game. We're going to completely embarrass ourselves in front of the entire world. But But this year, I could say in all three of those games that the Bills showed up and they played very well, and Josh Allen did a great job, and our defense is stout. So I think my prediction is 24-17 Buffalo is what I'm going with. So hopefully we can talk here a week from now.
Heard it here first.
Yep, that's it. I didn't repeat that from anybody I
Well,
heard on the radio
hopefully
today.
I'll be sending you hopefully we'll be sending you a congratulations text this time next week.
Yeah, and I understand you're in Kansas City. Are you a Chiefs fan, or are you I know you're from Texas, so where is your heart at?
Yeah, no, we bleed red now. We're part of Chiefs Kingdom here in KC. We're ready for whatever comes at us next. We're still sore about that loss to the Patriots last January.
Yeah.
That game was ridiculous. That was such a good game. I mean, obviously not the outcome you wanted, but one of the greatest NFL football games I've ever seen. We might be if the Bills can squeak it out this week. There is a possibility, depending on who wins between the Patriots and Tennessee, that we might be in Kansas City. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, enough
of
the
friendly rivalry.
Yeah, I hope for that day, if that does happen, that we won't ruin our friendship over that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're doing good here on time. We're kind of hitting
well,
that.
That's all the questions.
That's all your.
Yeah,
that's
all the
questions
we've got. Yeah.
Sorry, you gotta love this having
Some
conversations.
real hardballs for you.
Yeah. All right. So in closing, I guess kind of give us kind of in closing a little sales pitch on kind of closing out why Big Sky Rentals and why people should pick that for their next big adventure.
Yeah, so we think, for the novice or for the experienced hunter, fisher, camper out there, that they should give us a shot at BigSkyRent.com. We offer affordable, flexible options to access premium gear, and we get it to you as conveniently as possible to wherever you're hunting, fishing, or camping underneath your big sky.
And if you want to get to know more about us, please follow us on Instagram at Big Sky Rentals is our handle. Or if you have questions or want to check out our website, it's www.bigskyrent.com. And if you have, further questions that aren't answered online, please don't be shy to, send us a note on the contact page and we'll get back to you right away.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for being on here. And I wish you the best of luck with the launch of the company. And we should definitely try to maybe link back up, maybe late spring, early summer, as people are starting to really get serious thinking about the fall hunting season. It'd be good to get you on and see how business is going and kind of refresh everyone's memory on what you guys are up to.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. And thanks again, Billy.
All right.
Thanks, Billy.
Thank you. Go Bills.
All right. Take care.
All right. See you guys.